When the mind believes it's in danger, the body will quickly follow suit. You can experience physiological symptoms of things that aren't actually happening if your brain perceives it to be happening. Think about a time where you had a really intense dream and you touched something hot and it really felt like it was hot to your brain. You wake up and clearly it's not what's going on, but it just feels so real, you can't shake it. That's exactly what it was like from our story submission today from a follower. She gave me permission to anonymously share this story, and I think it's a very interesting one for this reason. She believed something was happening to her and she had a gut feeling. And in the end, it turns out she was right, but not about what she thought. And she spent a lot of time battling in psych wards and arguing with loved ones and being at war with herself until the truth was finally revealed. You don't want to miss this story, so go ahead and grab a snack, and without further ado, make sure you hit the like button on this video so it can reach more like-minded people, and let's get straight into this one. Alright, she says, "Hey, thanks for your videos. I appreciate what you're doing. I wanted to share. This year, I was admitted for weed-induced psychosis. I believe someone in my home was drugging me and making me incredibly sick." See, this is already a commonality for people struggling with paranoia that I've seen coming into the mental health hospital. They'll believe that the doctors or somebody in their family or just everything is just drugged with something. It's a common paranoia symptom. But let's keep going. She said, "I have chronic health issues, but the big ones were high respiratory rates at night, anxiety, depression, extreme fatigue, chronic joint and muscle pain, and muscles locking up, high heart rate, and autonomic disorders." Those are definitely some chronic health issues, and I'm wondering if they all were after medications over time. She says, "I had my breakdown in May when symptoms became too debilitating and day-to-day life needs to get back to work and maintain daily function from family became overwhelming. I ran away from home essentially and started to feel better in a way that absolutely terrified me, and no one believed I was actually feeling better. It was all attributed to me being manic, which just acted like an accelerator to my paranoia. No matter what, I couldn't go back to what I could only describe as feeling like a walking zombie, just a husk of a person." So she runs away from home. People in her family are telling her she's one way when she believes in her heart of hearts that it's another. Paranoia starts to feel comfortable when it's in line with your gut feeling. Like, I believe that everybody as a human being has a survival instinct that we call the gut instinct. And it's not always right, but you can sometimes pick up, and you know you probably felt this before, when something just wasn't right, and then it turns out that, yeah, that thing wasn't right. I do believe we have that survival instinct. Now, I don't know exactly what could cause it to go out of whack, but I almost feel like in America, it's designed for us to not be able to detect and source what our gut is telling us is wrong. Because there's so many things that's wrong in the food that we eat, in just the regular everyday harms that we experience that I think overwhelm our true sense of danger and survival. So we have like these old instincts that are still useful, but we just have a very staticky transmitter on picking up exactly what it is. But the beautiful thing is we have resilient brains and bodies, and through coping skills and regular therapy techniques, even as simple as deep breathing, we can start to get through a lot of the fog and really start to be in tune with ourselves and trust our gut. But let's keep going with this story. This is wild. So she says, "In June, I started saying I thought it was mold. Went through so much pain trying to get anyone to believe me, but I maintained my healthier state until October when I crashed again. Full body pain, extreme fatigue, and just complete lack of identity or presence. I just feel like I got hit by a truck every day. This has to be some crazy existence to be going through. On top of that, to have no social and emotional and relational support from your loved ones. I'm sure it was hell on earth. Like, one of the worst things you can do to a human being is to make them feel isolated. And you make somebody feel isolated and you pair that with paranoia, man, tracked a lot of medical symptoms that would lead most mental health professionals to say I'm a hypochondriac. A week ago, I finally pushed hard enough to get the mold test. Our house has 10 to 14 times a normal amount of aspergillus, and in some individuals, long-term chronic exposure causes severe degradation of mental, physical, and cognitive function over time." Bingo. That was the key, and that's something that maybe she would have never thought of, that she had mold in her house 10 to 14 times the amount. And if you didn't hear, some of the symptoms and reactions that can cause to that exposure is mental, physical, cognitive function degradation. The brain knows something, the body knows something, and sometimes we have to source it. But it's when we start doing unhealthy things. I believe that we should probably take a list of healthy things to do when you have a hunch or maybe even a paranoia, because a lot of times with patients, in my experience, they would go to far and unfathomable lengths to prove what they're saying is true. Like when you're willing to be unclothed in public, when you're willing to harm somebody or do something that is so socially averse that it really outweighs what you're trying to prove. But if you can have a checklist of, okay, I feel something's not right with me, she's having these abnormal physiological responses where she's going to the hospital, it's having a mental effect on her family's not trusting her, like there has to be some form of a checklist. It's like, all right, let me fast. Let me, it's the body's reset button. If you know you've been eating a lot of BS and you haven't been getting sleep and you're just like down in Mountain Dews, eating processed sugars and all types of stuff, I say you should probably cut that out, go to some mineral water and just give your body a break and allow yourself to reset. Sometimes these things staying in our bodies affects us in ways that we can't even imagine. And if you're already on medication, it's like, it could be reactions happening that you don't know, which is why whenever you're taking medications, it also relies on a diet and water intake to be optimal. Otherwise, you increase your chances of side effects. But let's keep going. So something, not someone, was hurting me, but I couldn't comprehend or handle the idea of an environmental air quality issue while people were yelling at me to get over something so debilitating. That's got to be something. People gaslighting you. I just kind of knew something was killing me and taking away my life and no one would listen. I think I'm just sharing this because, like I said, I ended up admitted for marijuana-induced psychosis. I was held involuntarily for weeks and punished often for talking back and having delusions about my mental health and recovery. It was even implied that at one point to my family that I was potentially faking my level of disability at home to be manipulative. Now, this is the pitfall of how psych wards can gaslight people into an actual disorder, because like I said, as a human being, to have a gut feeling about something and to have zero validation or investigation from people that are supposed to help you or that love you, that level of turned off empathy just reminds me of that Black Mirror episode where if you wanted to punish somebody or cancel them from society, you made it to where everybody, when they looked at you, just saw a pixelated blur, like you didn't exist. And naturally you get to be around everybody, but you feel and you are essentially invisible, and what you are doesn't matter. And what that does to the human brain is, socially, it could drive you mad. So for her to be in this situation, for her to even be at the point where she's able to type this story out and not either be on a Kill Bill mission or to just have increased paranoias from this very situation is remarkable and should give you hope as to how resilient we are as human beings when the right things are applied, right? It's like as soon as you start to reverse pollution, the earth benefits, grass starts to grow, animals start to come back. We are resilient such as that. I know I did crash out, but I was also chronically medically neglected and told all of this was in my head as I was experiencing a life-changing level of physical recovery, and in a lot of ways that decisive way to frame my reality heavily progressed my mental collapse. I can imagine. Now I know that my liver was slowly failing from this mold. A doctor agrees my home is incredibly damaging to my health, or at least there's very high evidence to support that the house is causing chronic health complications. It might never apply to one of your patients, but I thought it was a unique story to share. Thanks again. And then she goes to share some of the unique symptoms that the mold can cause. Now, this is not a video where I'm going to go tell you to test the mold in your house, because honestly speaking, if we were to do something just as simple as drinking more water and minding what we eat, making sure we're incorporating fruits and vegetables and not so much processed foods, we would start to see a benefit just there, in our body's frequency, like a radio, to be able to be attuned to the right thing, to be able to catch when something's going wrong, you know what I mean? But this is exactly why I created Jay's Psych Ward Survival Guide. And in that guide, I break down exactly what you should know before you go into a psych ward and certain things about the system and what they expect of you, like when you come in how you can't leave, and you should expect to stay there at least 3 to 5 days, maybe even 7 days. How you should secure your pets, how you should have numbers pulled from your phone, what clothes to bring, what not to bring. It can be a very dysregulating experience when you go to the psych ward thinking that it's going to help and accommodate you according to everything you might want or need, because it's supposed to be about your mental health. Now, you can have that experience, but you having that experience by default is not going to happen, which is why this guide helps you to be able to actually get the help you need and forego the different situations that might gaslight you or make you feel unheard or trigger you when you're already in a tough state. Now, she was in that ward and she was not able to get what she needed at a lot of times. She wasn't probably going to have a good time until she could source exactly what was going on, because she knew something was going on. But if she would have had a knowledge base about what to expect from these wards, how to go about it, I'm sure maybe there might be some things that she would have done differently that could have prevented a crash out, or things that would make her stay a lot more difficult. I just want to say to this user, thank you so much for submitting this story, and you are a resilient individual. The moral of the story is respectfully trust your gut. Respectfully go through the true litmus test. Again, if you're exhibiting like out of bounds interactions to prove what you're doing is true, if you're willing to forego an unhealthy amount of sleep or eating, or you're taking high risks to prove yourself, this could be a manic episode, this could be evidence of other mental health issues underlying, but there's a reason also why you might be exhibiting those simple symptoms. Just because you exhibit paranoia and things like that does not mean you have a mental health disorder. You know, UTIs, lack of sleep, even what you could have in your diet, all can contribute to certain symptoms that you exhibit. And the biggest one of them all is, if you're watching this video from the US of A, yeah, that is already a cage enough to make you feel crazy if you turn on the news or you're somebody that likes to stay up with politics. You know, we got to watch our combinations, you know, because they can become harmful. But let me know what you think about this video right here. If you were this woman, how would you react to being in these situations? If you would like to submit your story, you can send me a direct message on Facebook, or you can hit me up in the email at jpsychwardstories@gmail.com. I'll share your story anonymously, and it can benefit the community. We can come together and discuss some of the ins and outs of things from other people's stories, see how you would have handled them. Maybe you have some similarities of how you were able to get around some things. It can bring some hope, warning, and also some entertainment to you. Hopefully you got something from this video. Make sure you drop a like, definitely subscribe, and if you're on Facebook, drop a follow. Make sure you share this video with a friend, and as always, like for more stories.